Alright, it wants us to find all of the zeros of this graph. Now this is easier because we can already see if we factor out an x squared, it's going to turn into a much easier problem.
Over here, the 7's cancel.
Remember, whenever you're trying to find zeros, zeros have to do with factors and vice versa. So if I can find factors, I can find zeros. And if I can find zeros, then I can turn those zeros into factors. So whichever one's easier is what I want to do. In this case, it was easier just to factor this equation out. And this turns into what?
I would have done that.
X equals 0 twice. So some people call it multiplicity 2. Some people call 0 a double. The number 0 in this case is a double root or a double 0. Meaning on the graph it bounces. At 0 it's going to bounce either above it or below it. I'm not sure which one yet. That's why I do the end behavior to figure out which way it bounces. So now I'm not done factoring though, because this one also factors. Let's see if that factors. It's going to be x minus 2 and x plus 1, right? So there are my zeros. There's a 0, there's a 0, and there's 2 of my zeros. And remember, I had to have a total of 4 zeros if I count multiplicity. So what are my zeros? This gives me which 0? X minus 2. If I set it equal to 0,
that's easy. When you square it, you knock the root out. But you didn't square x minus 7, right?
I did it all in one step. X minus 2 equals 0. Solve that. X equals 2. What 0 comes from this factor? Negative 1. X plus 1 equals 0, which means x equals negative 1. So here are my 4 zeros.
I have a question for when we're
So
writing it in like this.
negative 1, 0, and 2. Negative 1, there's one of my zeros. 0 and 2.
That's a bracket, so you use a bracket when it's included.
Now let's look at the end behavior, since they didn't ask us to do that, but let's check it out. If it's an even degreed function and it's a positive, it's positive and even degree. What does that tell us? It tells us positive means the end behavior does this, right? And even, positive tells us that the right goes up. That's what positive tells us. And even means that they both go in the same direction. So that's what the end behavior is going to be. Now let's just fill it in. There's a 0 there, there's a 0 there, and there, whoops, no, not there. 0 there, and a 0 there.
I know, that's correct. I do not like to check.
This is a double 0, which means it bounces. It doesn't go through. These both go through. So I know that's happening, and I know that's happening. So this is what it does. Bounce. Go up. There's my graph. Now this might be a little bit higher here, we don't know. And this might be a little bit lower, we don't know. But we know the zeros, and we know the end behavior, so we can sketch the graph roughly by using them.